Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's take a look and see what is going on with Bitcoin. So, definitely a crazy move up for the day. Not really what I wanted to see for a Sunday, but this is a really good sign for the weekly. So, let's take a real quick look at the weekly. Um, we got our high, which is around 66,926, the low being 63,710. It does look like we're going to close about 65,493, somewhere around there, 65.5, if we can maintain this bullish behavior by 5 o'clock p.m., which is in about 40 minutes. So, I'm definitely going to say that this looks like a decent, it's no longer a doji, so it does look like a decent candle for the weekly. Um, that being said, it does kind of give the idea that we could have a continuation. My biggest thing was getting back above Monday midnight open, which was 64,912, as well as getting above 65,186, which was a point of really consistent resistance for us. We couldn't really get it back above that. So if we're able to close a weekly above 65,186, that's going to be a really bullish sign for the bulls. Okay. So that being said, let's take a look at the 3 day. So the 3 day is no longer looking like a swing high, at least for right now. I guess it could still be one, but definitely as long as we're keeping that 21, that is the more bullish state for Bitcoin. And then obviously for your daily, you did get that bounce off of that 21. You got a strong reaction off of there. So definitely shows a very good and positive sign for the Bulls for right now. And like I said, as long as you can close above 65,186, you have to assume that we're going to come up and test 66,482 next. Okay. Let's take a look at our meso time frame. So 12 hour, got a nice bullish engulfing candle. Let's see, 10 hour. So 10 hour and 8 hour, you're going to want to see price close above 65 364. So that's going to be kind of your line in the sand for 8 hour and the 10 hour. You'll get that golden cross potentially if you're able to do that. Now the bad thing is if we were to reject from here. So if we get a rejection off of the 200, we fall back down. You never want to see those bigger meso time frames get rejected, right? So definitely want to see the candle close above the 8 hour 200 MA as well as the 10 hour 200 MA. I will be watching those closely within the next 40 minutes. Taking a look at the 4 hour, so 4 hour definitely kind of had that round and bottom. I was personally, I'm kind of surprised by this. I was expecting a one last 786 retracement from here because we had this double bottom, and it didn't happen. And I was just waiting for that discount. Didn't happen, and then finally it just took off without me, which is fine. But I will be definitely looking for, there is still the possibility we visit down here, hopefully the beginning of next week's candle, and if not, I would expect that reversal come Wednesday potentially to start moving down, taking out some of these longs. Um, let's take a look at the 1 hour. So the 1 hour got back above the 200. We haven't quite gotten that golden cross yet. It's going to take a few more hours to get there as long as we can consolidate above the 200 MA. 30 minute got that golden cross, so that gave you that follow through probably. 15 minute looks like it's flagging out bullishly. We just need the 21 to come back into price action for right now. 10 minute, yeah, nothing, no patterns there. 5 minute, you're just looking at some sort of trend continuation. I would look for 65 186 to get retested, touching the 21 before we keep going if that's what it's meant to do. 1 minute, kind of looking a little bit bearish on the 1 minute with that head and shoulders, but again, that could easily just reverse. Nothing major there, but I do see, guys, for right now, as long as we keep the 65 186, let's pull a fib real quick and just see what other levels there are from the upside. So, um, let's see. Let me get my fib tool. All right, and we're gonna pull it from the bottom here. So this double bottom. Um, So you'd first be looking at about 65, 729, which would be taking out that double top right there. I would say, because we already broke this right here. So I would say 65, you know, 65, 730-ish area would be the next I would look for. And then I would probably pull from here. up here, which would take about this top up here, this double, triple top, whatever you want to call it. So about 66,000. Then finally, you'd be pulling from this impulse up here, to 66,200. So I would say first we got to make sure that we break through 65.7-ish area. That's going to be a point of um, resistance here. Let me go ahead and put a line right here because that's a nice double top right there. So 65,740 around there is where I'm targeting, at least for right now, to the upside. To the downside, you definitely, like I said, guys, you want to see the 65,186 hold. You definitely want to see 64,912 hold, which was Monday midnight open. And obviously 64,700 would be from there. But for right now, I would concentrate on 65,740 to the upside. And if we can break that, then you have a potential of visiting 66,482. Okay. That being said, guys, let's go ahead and match up price action to liquidity and see what's going on there. So let's take a look at our 4-hour. All right, let's see here. 4-hour. Yeah, nothing really has changed. You don't really have any bridges up to get up to the 67-ish range. You do show on the 10x, you show some yellow and red liquidity there. So, you definitely have some of that. I just am not seeing a lot of, any bridging really, unless I were to zoom in for the 4-hour, unfortunately. You do have some to the downside, and I would expect for at least this little pull to be taken, like I said, guys, around 63.6. I'm still going to be eyeballing that to take out that double, or actually now triple bottom there. But we will see whether or not that happens this week. Let's take a look at the 1-hour. So the 1-hour, and you got another really interesting thing, guys, is if you notice a trend diff, it hasn't even given a bullish or bearish signal for quite some time since July 20th, around there, July 21st. So it does allude to the fact that there's probably quite a bit of manipulation going on. And like I said, I would assume that, it's not even saying that this is possibly a continuation. So if this were to probably take out some of these bigger pools up here, this indicator probably would have shown that by now, would be my guess. So I am under the impression that this is kind of a short-lived, pump, um, some sort of a bull trap, you could even say, for us to potentially get rejected and possibly come down here to that 63 area. So I would be very careful. Would definitely take profits if you are in a long, potentially not financial advice, but something to think about because you got to keep in mind again the time that we're in, right? If this double bottom happened during the week and we had, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday left, yeah, you could have just sat and let it go. But because we are dealing with a weekend when we got this double bottom, you got to be really careful with, price can literally reverse at any given time, like I told you guys. So that's kind of why I didn't chase this. I'm being good and I'm staying out. Yeah, I missed out on a decent pump, but there's going to be plenty more to come. And I personally like to play price action during the week versus on the weekends, because this is rare behavior. We don't usually get these massive pumps on the weekend as often. So just kind of keep that in mind, guys. Definitely it was a nice pump. I hope some of you were able to take profit with it. But just know that there's a potential that it's going to come back down into this area to take out some more liquidity, at least on the long side, right? Taking a look now at the 15-minute. So 15-minute does somewhat resemble a rounded top. Again, like I told you guys, as long as we don't dump too hard, you could wait for the 21 to come into price action and possibly get a continued move upward, maybe testing that 65.7-ish area. Let's actually see how that aligns with liquidity. I'm curious. So we talked about 65.7. That's right about here. And that basically tells us that there's a possibility that we get rejected off of this green liquidity right here. So something to look out for. We could get one more little high, maybe make some bearish divergence, and then maybe snap back down. So that would align with the timing as well, if price were to do that. Let's see. And then let's take a look at the 5-minute. So 5-minute not showing too much difference. The only thing is that we have this liquidity to 66K. We could potentially get up here, take this red out and reverse. You can see that there are some smaller bridges forming to the downside. So definitely have some smaller bridges to lead us down to 64.3, it looks like at the very least. Your order book through open market is showing that there are more orders to the upside closer to us. However, there are some lighter orders to the downside, so it really is going to depend on whether or not this is going to be used as resistance, or we're going to poke into this, and then reverse potentially. Um, yeah, I'm a potential seeing a potential move upwards still, guys. It's very interesting, but the only thing that's shady about that is if we start this upcoming weekly candle with a pump, you got to realize that we're probably going to get a dump come Monday, Tuesday, and if not, then it's going to be a bearish week, and we will get a bigger dump come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to create that bearish candle, unfortunately. So from a timing perspective, this is going to be very interesting. Like I said, if we get a move up for the start of this weekly candle, could spell out some trouble for Monday and Tuesday. And if it doesn't spell out trouble, just like I said, keep a real close eye on Wednesday, especially for a reversal to the downside, and we could really close a bearish week. So I go based more off of time than price. That is what I'm seeing for right now. But let's take a real quick look at the simple map as well. So the simple map, let's see, you got some 100x, you got some 50x. You do have some more to the upside than the downside currently, and for right now, it does look like because you were able to get past that first initial hump to the upside, you could potentially reach all the way up to about 65,970 before you encounter any issues. 65,970 is where I would be targeting as far as a simple map goes to the upside, and then obviously to the downside. You'd be looking at about 64,350. That's not really that much of a impulse bar, though. I would be looking more towards this 63,690 for a potential bounce. So my targets are set on to the upside 65,970 if we were to get up there, and then obviously to the downside if we were to just fall through around 63,690 for a potential bounce. Your swing time frames kind of showing the exact same thing like we showed earlier. You kind of have to get above that hump at 65,970 in order to continue your move upward. And then obviously to the downside, you're going to have to, basically get past 63,690 to continue and get into more of this liquidity down here. That being said, guys, that is what I have for you this evening. I hope you all had a wonderful day, and I will talk to you in the morning. Take care.